welcome to this live stream on the Atlassian YouTube developer channel. This is going to be a good one today. But first of all, it's about you, the audience. I am Lars Klint. I am a developer advocate with Atlassian for the Forge team, and I want to know what your level of experience is with Forge, and also where you're dialing in from. We always like seeing in the chat where people are from, because it kind of makes it a bit of a global event, we hope. But let me introduce my co-host, Ian Ragudo. Are you there?
Hey Lars, how are
Hey, there
you?
you are.
So
I'm good.
good
I'm
morning, good
good.
afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Exactly. I don't know where people from. I'm watching the chat as well as I'm looking at you. Um, now I thought, because today's stream is about, well, Forge obviously, but also about the Teamwork Graph, and we'll get to a lot more about that, what that is, obviously when Adam comes on as well. But I thought I'll ask you a question, and I've written it down here, so I'm going to read it out from the screen. When you
Sure.
think about Forge today, what's the first thing developers should understand before connecting it to external data sources?
Ooh, you're kind of putting me on the spot here, Lars. But no,
Yep.
just kidding. So first thing, top of mind, I'm gonna say it's secure by default. So Forge allows us to connect to external data sources, but you cannot do so explicitly defining them in your manifest. So don't worry. Although you can access them, you have to explicitly put it in your manifest to allow those data sources be ingested by Forge. So I think that's pretty cool. So how about you, Lars? I know we're gonna have an exciting session today. What are you excited about in today's session? And maybe cut it short to maybe just a minute or under a minute.
You know me too well. All right.
Yeah.
The Teamwork Graph. So I'm quite new to Forge still. I mean, I've only been on the team for 6 months, which has been a bit of a whirlwind, but I'm learning. And Teamwork Graph is one of those things where I go, ooh, this sounds like something you almost must have if you have any size of business, because you get all of the information from all of your Atlassian sort of ecosystem stuff into it. And I want to listen and see what Adam does with it and how it actually enhances everything. So that's, yeah, in general, the topic.
All right.
Okay. Was that all right? Was that under a minute? Am I good?
Yep. Barely under a minute. So thank you.
All right. We're
I'm gonna check
almost
the
at
chat for
introducing.
any.
Yep. Yeah. Check it. No. So, two things I want to mention before we get to Adam. One is, currently we are running the Codegeist Hackathon. If you haven't heard of Codegeist, that's fine. It is a hackathon for everybody, basically. If you have an idea that might run on the Atlassian ecosystem, this is a great way not only to get some experience and some knowledge, but also win some prizes. And there's actually cash. We have like 120 grand in overall prize pool or something. So check that out. I believe the link is in the chat. And also, if you're not subscribed to this channel on YouTube, please do so. It helps us immensely, and lets us do more of these live streams and share a whole lot of this knowledge with the Forge community. So, all right, let's get to our special guest for the day. I want to introduce Adam Moore. He is the principal product manager for Ecosystem, and Forge in particular, and he's currently working on integration with Rovo and Teamwork Graph, and he is calling in from Wellington. So welcome to the stream, Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Hi, thank you, Lars, and yeah, welcome from sunny Wellington, which is nice for a change. But yeah, it's actually nice
Yeah,
here
well, we're
today.
getting into summer. So. Yeah. All right. Well, do you want to add anything, Ian, or should we just let Adam run with it?
Yep. I think Adam is more than ready to start. So handing it
Sounds
over
good.
to you, Adam.
All right, thank you, Ian and Lars, and yeah, welcome everybody. As I said, I'm a product manager here working on Forge at Atlassian, and today looking forward to talking about how teams can go from knowledge to action by extending the teamwork graph with some of the new capabilities that we've been bringing to Forge. So we'll show you how Atlassian's connected data platform will be made accessible by Forge, and then you can use that to help your teams build powerful integrations and unlock some new opportunities. And so, as maybe Lars alluded to, let's start with a bit of what is Teamwork Graph. It is this sort of big, powerful thing, but like specifically, what do we mean when we're talking about Teamwork Graph? I guess the best way to think about it is the data intelligence layer sort of for the whole of Atlassian Cloud. And so we know that our customers are using hundreds of applications, services, solutions to get their work done. And we're all in this distributed world where work is happening everywhere. There's different knowledge silos all over the place and disconnected apps. And the goal of Teamwork Graph is to eliminate all of those silos by bringing together, seamlessly connecting your Atlassian data, as well as data in other apps outside of Atlassian as well. And what makes the Teamwork Graph so special is that by doing that, it gets to know deeply about your organization. It knows about the people, the teams, the knowledge, and all the connections between them. And so this power is sort of tailored, personalized experiences across all the different products. So, it's not just your Jira issue showing the pull request that it might be connected to. It's Rovo answering your questions by aggregating data from all the different data sources, or maybe how Atlassian Analytics is bringing together insights across all the different apps. These things are powered by the Teamwork Graph. And as you could imagine, Teamwork Graph operates at a tremendous scale. So to date, it contains 23 billion objects, such as documents, work items, pull requests, all those type of things. And it's mapped 84 billion relationships between them. So importantly, this isn't just Atlassian data either. 84% of the weekly ingested data that comes into the Teamwork Graph is from non-Atlassian sources. And so that sort of data from outside of the platform is obviously a huge part of it. And as your data grows year over year, making the graph even more powerful and rich, we're increasing the connectedness of the data as well. And so in the past year alone, we've tripled the number of relationships in the graph. And that means previously, like, for example, Teamwork Graph might have recognized that you were a contributor to a document. Now it can understand whether you created the document, edited it, or just commented on it. And that richer network of relationships means that our products can deliver deeper insights and more powerful personalized experiences. But, unfortunately for our developer audience, and I'm assuming we've got plenty on the call today, until now, the Teamwork Graph has been inaccessible to developers. And so while you can experience it within the Atlassian products, you're not able to leverage it directly via your apps or sort of build custom integrations. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So the ability to add your own custom data into the graph, to be able to link that data with other objects that are already in the graph, and then in the future to be able to build applications or agents on top of this graph data as well. And the way we're going to do that is by using Forge. And so, we want to make your own Teamwork Graph data, first-class citizens across the Atlassian platform. And I noticed, we did have a couple of new people in the chat to Forge. And so I will just give a quick intro into exactly what Forge is. And basically, it is the secure, managed place to build your custom apps in the Atlassian cloud. I know we've got a lot of customers at the moment looking at moving from DC to cloud, so they might be looking at Forge for the first time. And Forge, the great thing about Forge is that it handles a lot of the hard stuff, so that you can just focus on building great functionality for your apps. It obviously gives you sort of easy access to Atlassian data through APIs, through product events, and different ways that you can customize the user experience through different modules, workflows, things like that. And importantly, particularly if you're working in a large enterprise, Forge is a platform you can trust. So Ian touched on this a bit earlier too. Forge apps are secure by default, and they scale with you as well. So whether you're starting out with a little side project just to get going, or you're rolling something out across your whole enterprise, Forge will support you as you go. And another way to think about Forge is that it's the scaffolding that holds up your app. It takes care of a lot of like the permissions and authentication, your app hosting, the storage, security. And the great thing about it is that it's a modular platform as well. So you only add what you need. You choose from the different UI modules, components, APIs, triggers, or even adding things like robo agents. Everything runs securely on the Forge platform in Atlassian's cloud, and so your data stays protected and compliant. Even things like data residency are supported for storage in Forge right out of the box. And so by removing a lot of those hard things of app development, it means that you can move fast to solve problems for your teams. And so today I'll walk through some of the new capabilities of Forge by focusing on our favorite fictional customer, VitaFleet. If you've been to any of our team conferences, you'll know they often get picked on in our product demos. VitaFleet are a global healthcare company, so obviously they operate in a highly regulated industry. And so for the sake of our example today, we're going to talk about a on-prem system that VitaRec have built for themselves to manage requirements and risks and other compliance information. And so the problem VitaFleet have is the work is scattered across different tools. They've got their requirements and this bespoke system they've built for themselves, but the work's happening in Jira. And you've got teams copy and pasting links and data and switching context and just all around wasting time. And so that's where the Teamwork Graph can really come in. It brings everything together so the context can follow the work. And when you extend the Teamwork Graph with Forge, your systems become part of that same connected fabric of the Teamwork Graph. And so, a company like VitaFleet would want their requirements appearing natively in Atlassian. They want them searchable, linkable, actionable. And I'm going to show you how we can use Forge to make all of that happen. And so for the purpose of the session today, I'm going to sort of focus in on 3 new or newish building blocks that we have available in Forge. Firstly is the new module that allows you to build custom smart links, which mean you can just copy and paste a URL into the various Atlassian surfaces, and it'll automatically render rich previews of that external content. I'm going to talk about Teamwork Graph connectors, which allow you to build full syncs that ingest your external data into the Teamwork Graph. And thirdly, we'll talk about actions, which are really powerful Forge modules that you can add to your agents or automation rules that can take actions in other systems as well. And so together you can use those to bring your whatever custom app you have into the Atlassian platform and make it feel like a first-class citizen. So what does that look like? Starting with smart links. As I said, these are how you turn plain old URLs into something a lot more useful. I'm sure everyone's familiar with them across the Atlassian products. But for the first time, I can build a smart link that works with any external system. So in this example, I've pasted a VitaRec URL into my Jira issue description. And what that's going to do is invoke the smart link module of my Forge app. It's going to fetch that contextual information from the VitaRec API, like title, status, owner, those kind of things, and display them in the standard smart link card. You can also have the inline view, the embedded view, all that good stuff. The cool thing is it uses OAuth 2 on the outbound call, so it's all permission aware. So if I can't see that information in VitaRec as a user, I can't see it here. And then obviously I can keep working away in my Jira work item. I can click over to VitaRec and keep working there. But this is sort of the start of the seamless experience that VitaFleet are trying to build. And the cool thing about smart links is they're not just Confluence pages and Jira issues. They are popping up all over the platform. And so it's just another example where you might be working in Confluence whiteboards. You can drop in that link to the external requirement in the external system, and that becomes an interactive card, which I can now mix and match with my various Jira work items, my projects, my goals, etc. And yeah, that context stays live. So when I'm brainstorming or planning with my team, it just makes it a much richer and easier experience. And then moving on to what's possible if you build the full Teamwork Graph connector. So a Teamwork Graph connector will actually keep in sync the data from the external system and ingest that into the Teamwork Graph. And that lights up a number of experiences. So the first one obviously would be search. And so now I can come in and search for something like shelf life risk for omega-3 gummies, and instantly I'll see those requirements from VitaFleet in my search results, next to relevant Jira issues and Confluence pages as well. And because the graph can understand the relationships between, say, a requirement and a work item, Rovo can then use that information to power the AI answers as well. So it's not just your basic keyword search, it's contextual, semantic, AI-powered search, which is really powerful. And then because that information has been ingested into the graph, I can now use that as a knowledge source for my agent. So I can step through when I'm in Atlassian Studio, I'm creating my agent. VitaRec now appears as a knowledge source alongside my other ones like Google Drive and Salesforce. So I can add that to my agent if I specifically want to dial this one in on that requirement knowledge, as well as adding any relevant folders from Google Drive or Confluence Spaces or what have you. So as you can see, sort of layering on more and more value on top of this data that's in the graph. And then finally, I want to talk about the actions component as well, because it's all well and good to be bringing this requirements data into the graph and into the platform. But actions are the things that really let us kind of close the loop and mean that we can take action from the Atlassian services into VitaRec as well. So obviously I can start with a sort of basic question for my agent and say, what requirements do we have for omega-3, kind of like with the search example. The agent will fetch them, obviously summarize them, all that good stuff. Even displays them using our new smart link there, you'll see in the chat. But then I can take it further and say, actually, I want to update the risk level of this particular requirement, and it will go away and do that. And then from there, even sort of using the graph, it can say, okay, can you now update all the assignees from the work items that are linked to that current requirement? And so using the graph, it can find work items that are linked to that requirement, assignees that are obviously assigned to those work items, and add a comment to those work items, tagging the assignee, just saying, hey, just so you know, the status of this particular risk has changed. So we're using that knowledge and turning it directly into action. And then one more bonus thing you get with actions as well is the ability to use them in automation. So it's cool, obviously, to be chatting away with your agent using them synchronously. But if you want to have them invoked in a more deterministic way, or running behind the scenes on a schedule, or gets updated or transitioned or things like that, you can add either the Forge agent itself as an action in an automation rule, or just the individual actions as well. So super interesting things you can do with the action to kind of make sure that data stays in sync across both places. Mm-hmm. And so all that's probably a lot to take in, especially for the people who are new to Forge. I just wanted to sort of give you an idea of the full scope of things you can do. But the important thing to keep in mind is you don't actually have to build everything all at once. As I said up the top, Forge is a modular platform. And so you can actually get started with a really small amount of code. And, especially with AI assisted tools like RovoDev and, things like Cursor and Copilot, it's really easy to bang out the small amount of JavaScript you need to get up and running if you're not a full-time developer or coder. And so, yeah, looking at the first thing we built here for Smart Links, it's just one Forge module and one JavaScript function that you need to write. Forge handles that outbound OAuth for you, so you don't need to worry about managing tokens or anything like that. It also renders the UI for the Smart Link in the right format, and handles that context across the different surfaces between Jira and whiteboards and Confluence and everywhere else. So super easy, fast, and permissions aware. Then you've sort of built your first Smart Link and you're feeling a bit more comfortable, probably the next step on your path is to have a look at building an action. Because again, actions are pretty simple. There's one Forge module that you need to define in your manifest, and you need to map that to a JavaScript function, which will typically call the API and do the thing you need it to do. So in this example, for updating the status of a requirement in VitaRec, you might need to define some inputs like a requirement ID and a status. And then you just write the JavaScript function that calls the relevant endpoints on the VitaRec API and returns a response. So again, Forge is managing all those auth tokens for you, and the action is only going to be successful if the user has the appropriate permissions in both systems. And then finally, once you've built a few smart links and actions, and you're feeling a bit more confident with Forge, then you might want to look into building a connector to do the full sync of data into Teamwork Graph. I have to admit, this is where it gets a bit more complicated, and exactly how you build a sync will probably depend on how your source system works. But Forge still provides a lot of those building blocks you need to make it really easy. So we have scheduled triggers, which means you can run jobs on a sync, whether it's every 5 minutes, every hour, every day. We have web triggers, which allow you to expose an HTTP endpoint, so that if your system is generating events, you can pipe those through into the Forge app, so things stay up to date in sort of near real time. And then we have async events as well. So if you're trying to handle a lot of data, then you can use async events to chunk up that work and manage large and long-running sync processes. It's a bit too much to fit in the slides for today. Maybe there's a follow-up session we can do to really dive deep into the engineering behind this. But yeah, for now, you can go and check out our docs and our sample app that show you how to do it. Cool. So yeah, just stepping back for a second, here's kind of the path that you take in a VitaFleet-like example. And the first step is probably before you even look at writing code. You kind of need to work out what are the key objects in that external system that you want to bring into the graph. Even the smart links, you need to map it to a particular object type, because that will affect how it renders. Then, as I said, start with the smart link. It's kind of one of the easiest modules in Forge to get going, but sort of brings you value straight away to start bringing some of that external context into the Forge surfaces. Then I'd say have a go at building actions. You get the double value of being able to use them in agents and in automation rule. And you can start with quite simple ones and sort of get more complicated as you go. And then finally, I think you really want to look at building a connector to bring like a full sync of data into the Teamwork Graph. It's the most difficult, but also the most valuable, just because it brings all of that context across all of the Rovo services and everything else. And so, something I'd really encourage you to look into. Each step sort of adds more power, and you can iteratively start delivering that kind of value for your teams. Sweet. So that's what we have today, but I'm sure many of you are already wondering, that's great for bringing data into the graph, taking action, all that good stuff. But what I really want is an API so I can query that data and start building apps and agents and experiences on top of it. And so, of course, that's something we're working on as well. And sort of to give a bit of an example of how we see that sort of manifesting in real life, here's an example of an onboarding agent. Someone might be able to build in the future using Forge, where it's consuming the graph data to walk a new starter through their first few days at starting at a new company. And so you can imagine, for starters, the app or the agent would sort of use the graph to work out what team that person is in, potentially using data from a source like Workday. It can then work out who that person's teammates are, and then start looking at, well, where are those people active? What Jira projects are they in? What Confluence pages are they contributing to? What kind of pages exist in those Confluence spaces that are relevant for a new starter? Like, where are the run books if it's a technical role, that kind of thing. it can then use some of that sort of more high-level information from Atlassian Home. So, I'm part of this team. What projects is this team contributing to? What goals do those ladder up? How do I fit it? How does our team fit into the wider sort of organization context? How does that then link back down into the specific Jira projects? And then because it has that third-party data in there as well, it can even get you to places like where are the GitHub repos that my team are active in. It can use calendar information to find out the team's sort of rituals and things you might need to be across. And then even, of course, like the different communication channels that might be relevant for that particular new starter. So, what Teams channels are they in? What Slack channel should I be subscribing to? All of that stuff can be pulled up out of the graph because all those objects are linked together with those rich relationships. And then with AI over the top, you're building these really personalized and interesting experiences. And obviously, it's not just agents. There's probably 1,000 different ideas for apps you could build on top of that as well. And so, yeah, we're really excited to see what people are going to do with that. As for availability on reading the graph, that's something that we're looking to have sort of out in more of an EAP form early next year. If anyone here is lucky enough to be going to Atlas Camp in Amsterdam in February, we'll have a lot more details there. But of course, all that content will also be available on the YouTube channel that you're already on. So make sure you like and subscribe. Awesome. So that was the future of querying the graph. But for all the other stuff I showed in the Vidarec example, you can get up and running today. The Teamwork Graph Connectors part is still in EAP, which you're welcome to sign up for, but we'll be going to preview in the next few weeks as well, or by the end of the year. So that'll be openly available as well. So I would encourage you to head over to developer.atlassian.com, and you can either follow your nose there to the Forge Getting Started guide, or created this direct link to the Teamwork Graph content as well. So go.atlassian.com/forge-twg will take you directly to that spot, so you can learn more about the different object types, relationship types, how the SDK works for building a connector, all that good stuff. And then finally, I just want to give a shout out to some of the partners we've already been working with in our various stages of EAPs and previews for these features. We already have some apps on the marketplace today that are Teamwork Graph connectors, so built by Pio and Unito there. So if you are looking for more connectors to bring data into your graph, and you don't necessarily want to build them yourself, you don't have to. We're getting a growing number of new connectors on the marketplace as well, so you can keep an eye out for that. But otherwise, that's it for the content. So yeah, I think we've got plenty of time for some Q&A.
Sure thing. Thanks very much, Adam. That was
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there I didn't know. I gotta admit. Yeah. Now I have been looking at the smart links, and I'm planning a video on that too on this channel. So again, another reason to subscribe if you haven't already. Now, while we'll just see if anyone has some questions in the chat as well. But I just want to call out a couple of people joining in, because we have sort of a global audience today. We got Danny, and I'm pretty sure actually Danny's in Dallas. We met him.
Yeah, we have. Looks like we have an Adam fan here. There you go.
That's awesome. Ooh. Oh well, who couldn't be? And yeah, so thanks, Danny, for joining. We got Lena from California as well, which is cool. So that's the US covered. And then we've got Code Claude is actually from Poland and been working with Forge since 2021. That's almost like since the beginning of Forge, I think, if I'm not mistaken. That's a long time. So that's pretty impressive. And he or she is here for learning about Teamwork Graph, as you know, is what the talk is about. Now, while we wait for some of the questions, I prepared a few for you, Adam. I was just, as I was, listening to you talk about all these different things, I was wondering, do you know, obviously we've got a few at the end, but what are partners or excuse me, customers using it for right now, the Teamwork Graph? Is there any specific projects or tasks they're sort of solving?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few different use cases. So I think so the initial partners we've been working with for the marketplace so far are really looking to build out sort of the long tail of connectors. So obviously, like Atlassian provides sort of 50-ish Rovo connectors, which can bring data from a source into the Teamwork Graph. But there's a long tail of other SaaS apps and things like that our customers are using that customers will need. So there's kind of a marketplace opportunity there. The other side of it is sort of existing marketplace apps, so the names people will be familiar with, like Tempo and X-Ray and those popular apps today. They have a lot of very valuable data on say timesheets or test management and those examples. And so how can we get data from those apps into the Teamwork Graph so it's searchable and available in analytics and all that good stuff? So that's kind of another stream. And then I think from a customer perspective, or customers working with different solution partners, everyone has their own system they depend on that they're running on-prem, or probably lots of them. And whether it's a sort of SAP implementation or it's a custom CRM they've built for themselves that they're looking to get that data in, and linking them with work items and pages and everything else. And so those are the sort of three themes I see coming through, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. And so and then I know it's in early access when you were saying that, and well, it won't be for long. Are there any hurdles sort of people should be aware of if they sign up for the early access program? Some of the maybe things that they should be aware of for using the Teamwork Graph right at this moment?
Yeah, I think especially if you're looking at building a connector, I think the thing that people need to be most careful with is permissions. And so if you're using actions or smart links, that's kind of taken care of because it's an OAuth call. And so each user has to link their account, and so it kind of works by magic. But once you start bringing data into the graph, you need to make sure you're setting the right permissions on all those objects so that it's only visible to the right people. And so I think that's where you need to sort of make sure you put in the time and testing and everything else. Of course, not all data is sensitive. It might be stuff from your knowledge base that you're bringing in that everyone in the site has access to, and so it might be a little bit simpler. But if it's something like, I don't know, CRM data or something that only certain people should have access to, making sure you spend the time to get that right is critically important.
Yeah, that makes sense. It actually brings me to my third question. I didn't even write it down because I didn't know what you were going to ask. That's not why I wrote it down. But can you limit the data for a specific Forge app that it can access? When I'm guessing the answer is yes, because you kind of almost answered it now.
Yeah, that's right. So so especially when you're pushing the objects in, there's various ways that you can set the permissions on that. You can sort of literally provide a list of user IDs. You can use groups, or you can make it sort of a more open access so that if someone has access to the Jira site, they can access it, that kind of thing. So there's different levels of options, depending on sort of what kind of data it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have you got any questions, Ian? Because that was sort of all I had.
Yeah, I do have one question while waiting for the other folks to put their question in the chat. So, Adam, I know Forge has come a long way since, I guess, early 2020s. And then in the upcoming months, is there a specific feature you are keen, or maybe that our developers should take note of or to watch out for? If you can just pick one.
Just one?
I mean,
I think if there's just one in the sort of next 6 months or so, I think the one people are really excited about is Forge containers. And so at the moment for Forge Compute, we use functions, which are Lambda functions under the hood. But once we have containers, that really massively broadens sort of the type of apps and things that you'll be able to run on Forge. If I could pick one that just shipped recently, I would say Forge Real-Time is one that's worth looking at. So that's just gone to preview last week. And so you can now sort of keep your front-end state in sync across different users. You can push updates from your back-end functions through to the front end. And so, it's sort of long been a bit of a deficiency of Forge that it's been hard to build those sort of real-time experiences. You've had to build polling and other workarounds. But with Forge Real-Time, we sort of make that really easy. So excited to see what people build with that.
Cool. So 2 things: Forge Real-Time, and then in the next 6 months, Forge Containers. So if you folks watching want to hear about those 2 things, put them in the chat, and then maybe we can do another dev then around those topics in the near future. Lars, do we have questions in the chat?
No, we don't have any questions. So we must have answered absolutely everything because it was a perfect presentation. That's all I can surmise.
Thank you, Adam.
Perfect.
But yeah, if you're watching this not live, but the recording, also feel free to put your questions in the comments because we'll check them there too. Cool. Oh, well, that's about it. That's what we had for this time. Again, if you're new to Forge, go check out the links that Ian posted in the chat to get started with Forge. It's actually really simple because I've just done it not long ago. And other than that, I hope that we will see you all in the next live stream, which is coming next week, I believe, on another
Yep, that's
Forge
correct.
topic. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.